All right, let's check if everything's up.
Nice.
Hello, everyone. If
Hi.
everyone's watching, let's see. All right, we are live on Twitch. We're live on YouTube, and let's check Twitter real quick.
Yep.
There we go. All right, you can go for it. So welcome everyone. Today we have a special guest here with us. We have Thorsten. And go if you want to introduce yourself real quick, Thorsten.
Yes, Torsten Lawrence have been working with Solana quite a bit. I think like 3 years now. And yeah, quick story. When I started, I immediately jumped into dev tooling, and it seems like I can never get back out. And that's why we are streaming about Lucid today, because it's more dev tooling. I'm just always trying to make everyone more productive, including myself. And so that's where we end up.
Yeah, you've created quite a lot of different tools. Like what can you name all the tools that you've created in your time on Solana? It's you've done it like Solida Shank, right? As well as like a few other
Mhm.
ones.
Yeah, Aman, which was kind of like considered at the predecessor of Lucid. What else did I create? Yeah, a bunch of other smaller ones, but yeah, those were the main ones probably.
Cool. And so we're
Those
going to
three.
be looking at Lucid today. For those that are tuning into our streams or have been tuning into streams, we've been doing a lot of stuff on tooling lately. And we wanted to dive into Lucid as one of the cool tools that are out there. So why don't you walk us through it, especially since I know that there's a new release of Lucid as well. I'd love to know all the new features.
Right. Okay, cool. So I actually did a release like you said, and I did some documentation stuff, and I even have a slide deck, and and in the video actually you see me like talking through like there's a video in the next one, and talking through really really quickly, and I can't keep up. I was trying to talk as fast as Lucid makes you develop, but I'm not quite as fast. But here, this is like showing a, well, maybe I should go back. Give me a chance. So, so Lucid, first of all, is like a development tool. It's like a test validator on steroids. Like you just launch Lucid, and then you have a test validator running, but then it gives you a bunch of other features. So here's an example where I'm launching this with the tic-tac-toe, which I used in the example. And we just created a game, a tic-tac-toe, but the program of the game wasn't even in the validator. It just got cloned from DevNet right into the validator. Now we're showing how we can actually set account states, either by just muting the account, or we
Thorsten,
can
are you supposed to be
also,
sharing? Sorry, pardon me to interrupt, but are
oh,
you supposed to be sharing something?
I'm supposed to be sharing something. That's a really good point.
Just
Let me
making
try
sure.
to get back. Okay, let's try that again. Thanks for reminding me that you need to share in order to
Yeah, make sure
show
you hit the
stuff.
share screen. All
All right.
right, we can see your screen.
Am I sharing now?
Yes.
Yes.
Awesome. Awesome. Let me move this stuff out of the way. And then I'll do this again. Yeah, I already said what Lucid is. Now I'm going to show the next slide here. Basically, what we're doing here is we're working with this tic-tac-toe game. Program is cloned automatically. You don't have to worry about that. Got cloned from DevNet, and now we're playing it. And now we can override account states, and we can take snapshots, and we can restore snapshots. It's kind of like all trying to show you to get you excited about like all the stuff that you can do with Lucid within the first 30 seconds. Because I learned that on YouTube, people actually don't watch past the first 30 seconds. So if you don't impress them, then they kind of go away. But this is like the quick 30-second kind of show. Like here we kind of also can see transactions coming in super fast because it's using faster validator on the hood, and you can label transactions, all those things. So we're going to go into that in detail now. But basically, just a quick overview: embeds the magic block low latency validator to make your transactions run way faster. So your tests will run way faster. All your feedback will be way faster. And then also there's a bunch of productivity boosters that Lucid includes, and diagnostics tooling. And the intuitive UI, which we'll show, makes it all easier to work with. And then we also have a TypeScript SDK, so you can actually interact with Lucid from within your tests or your apps, whatever. And we're also going to show that because I just basically updated the docs to have some cool samples there. So that was like the quick rundown. Here's like how quick it is to install. You just go to the site, and then so lucid.app, and you click on the install button, and takes you here, and you just like run the script, and then everything is installed. You launch the Lucid backend in the terminal, and then you launch the Lucid app and then they both connect and you're ready to go. You don't even have to launch the app. You just want to run tests. So the app is only needed if you kind of want to interact with Lucid or kind of diagnose stuff if things don't work out. So that's the quick intro. And now we're actually going to look at some cool stuff. So let me go to a terminal. So I have prepared something to the warm, but we're going to get to the warm in a second. For now, I'm just going to launch the Lucid backend. And so it started up and it's telling us to launch the Lucid UI. If we didn't know that for some reason, then it will remind us. So now we launched the Lucid UI. So those go both together, right? So the UI just connects to the backend, and we can actually see that if I stop it, right, it tells us I cannot connect to the backend. Please launch one, and I can start that again, and it will automatically reconnect. So we can do that as many times as we want. The UI is resilient like that. Which is also super useful because you can just keep the UI running if you want. Now, let me see the other thing here. Yes, if you kind of launch Lucid first, you have no transactions in it. Actually makes it easier for you to get started. It tells you maybe you should just play with the tic-tac-toe game first. And we're actually going to use that here to demonstrate some features. This is tic-tac-toe game. Again, it was not at all in the validator yet. Like the validator is empty. There's no program in there that's not normally in a validator. And but we can airdrop to play and you see how fast it was. I just clicked the button immediately, right? There's no 400 millisecond delay because it's using that fast validator. Now, when I create the game, actually what's happening now is realizing I don't have that program yet. And then it goes to DevNet and clones it, and we saw that coming in here. And then it creates the game. So you can see that it ran this transaction here, which took care of getting actually the tic-tac-toe program into this validator. And you can tell it to do that from DevNet, to find programs from DevNet, or to find programs on mainnet or wherever you want, right?
So question real quick.
By the way, if there are any questions, just interrupt me.
Yeah, I have a question real quick. How do you do that? Because like it did that, but you didn't do any setup. So how did you tell it to go to DevNet for it?
So basically, Lucid the validator looked at the transaction, realized, okay, there's an account there that I don't have yet, and then it tries to find it, and then it cloned it. And obviously, I can do that because this is a test tool. Magic Block actually also has this feature where accounts, obviously, because we are syncing accounts from DevNet, but there are way more restrictions on how we do that and when we do that. With Lucid, since we're developing, it's just like any account, in this case, any program account that's missing will automatically be cloned.
Okay,
but
how do
only
you
program
set it?
accounts, right? Not just any account.
So how do you set it to be from DevNet? Like if I
That
wanted to change
config
this,
is
if I wanted to change this from DevNet to mainnet, like how would you do this?
okay. What you would have to do is you do something. I'm just going to type this up real quick. So let's see. I'm just going to do this here real quick. So what you would do is something like you have the config the toml, and then you would basically say the remote because the node is basically the validator on the hood, and you would just say I can't remember exactly, but I think it's like this. You have to node accounts. Where do the accounts come from? And then you say remote equals DevNet, right? That would be, you can launch Lucid with that config, and then it will go to DevNet. You can also say, I want to actually launch DevNet kind of locally. You can just give it localhost something, and then it will consider that to be your DevNet, right? So you can actually have multiple Lucids also running and kind of interacting like this. And that's what we use at Magic Block to kind of test the whole what we are doing, but delegating accounts and non-delegating accounts and so on.
Can you do
But
this just with like
you
a
caught me
CLI?
right where I didn't. Sorry?
Can you do this just with like a CLI flag, like dash remote or something on Lucid?
Not yet. Like I figured for now, config is kind of easier.
Okay.
Right. We obviously we could later on say, okay, you can figure out CLI flags to do that. I want to kind of get to a point where you know exactly what kind of things Lucid will support and config, and then we can support CLI flags. There's a way to do that with environment variables, but that's a little more cumbersome.
Got it.
Right. And you pointed out exactly the part that I didn't document yet. I'm starting kind of like the Steve Jobs way, like you shouldn't have too many buttons at first. I'm just trying to first get people to use Lucid, and I documented all kind of things, but not the config. But the you can basically, I would consider that the advanced version. You shouldn't, normally you don't have to probably use a config if you work with Lucid. Yep.
Got it.
Good. Okay. So now, okay, so now we have this program in here, and we can now actually interact with it. So we can, and you can also see how quickly those come in. This one took a little bit, but usually these transactions come in blazingly fast. And as you can see, these transactions are labeled. I'm going to show how to do that with the SDK later. Some accounts over here are also labeled. If you don't label transactions or accounts, Lucid tries to figure out from the IDL of the program, if it's available, what is a sensible label, but you can also label them manually. And so let's first look at something. So I can cycle through transactions with keyboard shortcuts, like up and down quickly. Also here, we can have a quick look at the log. So I can just press O, open the logs. And I mean, it makes this a little bigger here so we can see that better. We have also here an Explorer button, so we can open this in Solana Explorer. And then I can select these accounts. Again, I'm a keyboard guy, so I can also press 2 and then selects the second account. And then I press space, and then it selects the inspect account data, because so I can go back and forth. I can just do this and open in the Explorer, go back here, like open the account real quickly again, go back and forth. So like it's a kind of a power tool. Like you're supposed to be quick with this. Now what we see here is actually the history of the account. So we see currently we are in the second state of this account because we're happen to look at that transaction, but we can actually cycle through and see how the account state changed over time. Maybe I should explain first what we're looking at. We're looking at the account state before the transaction and after the transaction. So over here, we have only the values that did actually change. In this case, went from 3 to 4, and we place an X somewhere on the board. And on the bottom, we have basically the entire JSON of each account before and after the transaction, right? And as you can see then, so the idea is that you can look at it from a transactions perspective, right? You can just say, go here and look at all the transactions that came in. But a lot of times you actually want to focus on a specific account. You want to understand how the state changed over time. Like if you write a game, like why did the player, I don't know, die or something, like, and you can kind of look at it from either the transaction, or you can look at it coming in from the account. And then, as I mentioned, you can then also navigate. So if I select the fourth state and I press N, it navigated to this transaction over here, which was the transaction that did change the state. Another cool thing we can do, we can actually watch the account. So if I push play here and now I keep playing, then it automatically refreshes every time the account state changes. So it's kind of a really cool tool to like understand what's going on. Now over here, we have a bunch of other things. We can also, obviously for each transaction, we can look at the logs again. We can look at the account state in the Explorer, which is here. Or just exit transaction. We can also look at the raw data of the account if you wanted to. And that's all that's available if there's no IDL. And here we can also see that the turn went from 45 and then some other stuff changed. But normally if it's available, you probably want to look at the parse data, right? So that's pretty much, I think most of the things I wanted to show for just transactions and accounts, but it's supposed to be like giving you a really quick view of everything that's going on and being able to inspect things. And right now we didn't do any magic yet, like except for cloning that program, but except for that we didn't do any magic. So let's do magic. Yes. So
Sure.
what if you're trying to see, like you over and over tried this thing and you're trying to like see if this program detects that the player is winning, right? And every time you have to keep clicking here and get to the winning state. Well, what if you could just say, I'm going to set the winning state? And but your program doesn't even have that instruction to set a winning state. Like it's not there. But what you can do actually, you can say, well, modify the account. So when we look at this now here, what happened here, we actually went from turn 7 to 6 for some reason, which shouldn't be possible, but we'll lose it is. And it just set the account state to whatever we define. Now this is, right, this is done via the SDK. I said we can do this via SDK. So there's this app here basically has this button that then sets the account state to a specific value. So we can just override anything of an account, the namports, the owner, or the state itself, right? Now, the other cool thing that we can do, though, is what if we get to a certain point, and so let me first do this step here, but what if we get to a certain point and we want to overwrite account state. So here we can look at, sorry, and we want to kind of save account states. So here we have all the accounts that are currently in our validator, right? And let me actually just like play one more step here. Okay. And now we basically can look at the account state currently of this account, right? And we can now say, okay, I want to select this account and I want to create a snapshot of the account currently. And I say, this is this first one. And maybe we can put in here, like what the board looks like. And we create that. And then we play a little bit more. Let's make two more, or actually now we won. Okay, so that's fine. And now we can look at the account snapshots. You can see that there are some other snapshots that the game actually created. That's not what we want to look at this point. But the game actually uses snapshots to make the undo work, which we'll see how that would work in a second. But now I can basically look into this snapshot and I can look at the account state at that point, right? And I can also say, well, just restore it. And immediately we restore it back to this state that we saved, right? And we can see that's actually the right state, XOO, whatever, right? And then the game is actually using this. Basically, every time we make a move, it creates a snapshot. And then we want to undo the last move, it just restores the last snapshot. That's how the game kind of does it. And it does it also by grouping snapshots. So if we create a bunch of them, for instance, right, and we want to kind of get rid of all of them, we can just say, remove them all, and they're all gone. And that's also how the game knows to say, okay, let me find all the snapshots of that group and let me restore the most recent one. And that's how I know to get back to a certain state. That's
So I have a
snapshots.
question.
Mhm.
Um,
Yes.
like with everything for Lucid Actions, this is all super cool, but it's geared towards the tic-tac-toe program. Like if I wanted to use a different program and set Lucid Actions, like how would I do that? How would I have the undo like last action button? Is that possible?
But this is so the restore snapshot is part of the SDK of Lucid. I'm going to look at that later. But the thing is that this is only possible in development, right? You cannot just overwrite account states for real,
Yeah.
right? So this only is available when you're using Lucid, right? Was that your question? I mean, you can only use it with Lucid,
Yeah, I just
but you
mean
can
like
use
this
it from
is,
anywhere with the SDK.
yeah. Okay, so anytime, like if I deploy my own program and let's say like it's not a tic-tac-toe game, let's say it's like a voting app, right? And I wanted to undo the last vote. Like how would I show that there? It's just part of the SDK. I can just like call, like how would I do that?
Right. So the answer is like, first of all, this tic-tac-toe program is exactly the Anchor tic-tac-toe program. I didn't change anything about it, right? There's no special thing in the program. It's the actions that we just did, they're not actually program actions. We literally just overwrite account state, right? So we just mutate accounts. There's nothing to do with which program you're using or whatever. We can mutate any account. Like you just give the address and you give the state. And then you can snapshot any account. And so for instance, here we have the pair, like we could snapshot that one as well. So it's not related at all to the program. And if you wanted to put a button like this in your game, you could, and then it would use, and that's why it's called Lucid Actions. This is only possible while you're running with Lucid, but it has nothing to do with the program itself, right? This is not, I don't consider this part of the tic-tac-toe game. This is more part of, this would be like an admin panel while you're developing, or maybe something that you're using in your tests. If you wanted to have a real undo, then you kind of would have to build, like if you want to kind of have players be able to undo it, then you need to add that to your program. Because on mainnet or devnet, you cannot do this. This only is meant to speed you up while developing. Does it make sense?
Yep.
Okay.
I've got another question. So say we have a token account that we update, like balance or something, or we do a snapshot on that specific token account. That would that potentially like screw up the mint account because the mint account has like total supply and stuff?
Well, I mean, yes and no. I mean, what you could do in this case, I would recommend like taking a snapshot of both the mint account and the token account, and then
Okay.
restoring. Like we can have multiple accounts in the snapshot, and then restoring them. So basically, what you want to do is like you want to get to a valid state, all right, where you want to, and then you want to try things. Either like while you're running tests, like you want to try another action, or while you're developing, like you want to run a specific instruction in your program that you're working on, but you don't want to always get to the state to be there, right? In this case, you can just like take a snapshot and even send it to your colleagues, right? Like, hey, start with this snapshot, load that in, and then you can try this. You could even use this like to say, hey, I found a bug. You can repo it like this. Here's a snapshot. Lucid doesn't support exporting snapshots yet, but it will. And so you can just basically say, here's a zip file. Um, and then what you can do though already, you can actually have Lucid running anywhere. So we can actually have you could deploy Lucid for your work. Like in this case, like we are running a 611, it connects to that. Um, you can deploy it anywhere. Like we could actually try this. We can like I can nwork something and you can connect to this Lucid if you wanted to. And so you could actually for a company or whatever for your work, you can have a Lucid deployed and you can reproduce something and then you can say, here's a snapshot, I put it there, just restore that, and then you basically will be reproduce the problem that you have
Okay.
if you wanted to.
Different
But
question.
you, but you're right. You could get into invalid states, right? If you just do it the wrong way, yeah, you can get into invalid states
Yeah,
like
so
that.
you still have to keep
Yeah,
like you have to be mindful of your state changes. Different question.
yeah.
So they have a common use case that people developing on local have difficulty doing is like doing PIth, right? Oracle solutions, being able to feed that account data into your local environment. How would you do that here? Like, how would you, I think you said program accounts you can automatically get downloaded, but like, how could you get a steady stream of like a specific account update from DevNet or mainnet?
Well, I mean, what you could do is you could literally like use this feature like to set the state of an account to kind of like have maybe you just run a service that uses Lucid SDK, which is available in TypeScript, and then it just keeps overriding the account Oracle. Like you can simulate it like that, right? And then
Hmm.
you can run the instruction again and make sure that it correctly picks up the Oracle state and that does the right things, right? So that's one way. Obviously, we can make more specific we create more specific solutions for this, right? If someone has a specific use case with Orcus, maybe we can build like a tool that kind of uses Lucid to interact and simulates these oracles correctly.
Okay. Yeah, this kind of feels like very similar to what is it, Truffle, the viewer on Ethereum, but more powerful.
It's more
Is what it
probably,
feels like. How
but
do
you have but
you,
you haven't seen the best thing yet. But we'll get to that in a second. Go ahead.
yeah, so you said that something that you can get so we have the IDL, right? How does it automatically when it pulls a program look for the IDL account?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So as long as you have it
So
deployed
basically, like
wherever
the
you're pulling,
ideals
you're fine.
are derived right from the program key, and it looks for a shank one, which probably there are not many, and for an anchor one, and whichever it finds, it just downloads.
Okay, cool. So if you were to like do something with Metaplex, right? A lot of people run into this problem on local where they try to work with Metaplex, they realize, oh, I don't have the metadata account, or I don't have some Candy machine program or whatever. This would just auto download everything for you. I guess it won't download what Candy machine comes with like a config account, so it won't get that, but it'll get everything else.
You could technically configure Lucid to say just download every account that I want to use. That's not in the validator,
Hmm.
if I can find it, right? So that exists. I would recommend in this case, so like again, once we can export snapshots, like basically Metabase could create some sort of a bundle of like basically of accounts in a snapshot and say, hey, look, load this snapshot into the validator and you're good to go. And that can right now we're not snapshotting accounts on purpose. But you could, right? You could even include the version of the boom because I think like it's kind of counterproductive to snapshot an account version that a program version that might not even be used on DevNet anymore on mainnet. So I think
Hmm.
it's actually better to, unless you're working on it yourself, to get the updated version.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay. Yeah, I think the snapshots thing, the bundles of snapshots is very like I think we've talked about it's like the plugin stuff that Validate is trying
Mm-hmm.
to do. That could unlock a huge amount of like power for developers. Given that they like, for example, I wanted to do switchboard randomness. If you want to do randomness with switchboard on local, you have to clone 13 accounts. I had to manually figure that
Mm-hmm.
out because there's like no
Mm-hmm.
information out there about it at all. And I would love to just like install a bundle or a plugin or whatever, and it gives me everything I need because I didn't change anything. I just needed them. I just
Right.
didn't have a clue what they were.
Exactly. Yeah. So if you I need to obviously document the config, it seems, but you can already say only clone programs or clone all accounts, especially if they're read only. You can say just like clone those accounts from DevNet or whatever, and just put them in the validator. And the reason why read only is easier because but for Lucid it doesn't really matter, but for Magic Block obviously it does, because if we don't want to separate like what's on the main chain and what's on the faster validator. But for Lucid it doesn't actually matter. You could just configure like if you don't find an account, just find it on DevNet, and
Okay.
it does it, right? Yeah.
And then this would
But
also
mhm.
enable like easy updating of like token accounts, right? If you wanted to update balance or something. Say you want to this was a common a use case that we were trying to do with validate, right? Um, we don't have USDC on local. We want to go grab the mint and we want to grab an account with I don't know, we want to make it 100 million USDC on local so we can just simulate and use the same mint throughout our all of our tests. Is that super easy with
Mhm.
Lucid as well?
Yeah, I mean, you can just I mean, as I said, you can say here's a pub key, here's the account. You can just put whatever you want there,
Yeah,
right?
but
So you could, for instance, also have a tool. You say like download this account and then change something about it and then put it into Lucid, right?
yeah, is it
Another
easy
thing that
to
you can
update?
sorry.
Is it easy to update within Lucid though? Because you said earlier that you
Um,
can update the state in Lucid, right, of an account. Like, can you do that
right.
with
I mean, like
token
if I do
accounts?
this, right,
Mm-hmm.
that it just updated in Lucid, right?
That's the snap
So
with
so
the
that
snapshots though, right?
that's a transaction. Hmm?
That's with the snapshots though, right? Or is it something else?
No, so there are two things. One is just overriding account state directly, which I did here. I just set it to something. Like you just give me the JSON basically of the account that you want.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one is basically capturing the state of the account and then restoring that state later. But it's essentially the same thing. One's is just like you know exactly the state you want and you just want to override it. And the other one's like you say, I want the state that the account has right now, but I don't even want to write it in my code. I just want to say like I'm going to do some things and then I take a snapshot and then later on I want to restore it, right?
Got it. Okay, makes sense.
But it's basically like full power. Like you can do anything. The other cool thing you can do is like let's just say you're working with accounts from DevNet, but they're basically assigned to like the authorities. You don't have the key pairs, right? And you could change the owners or authority, or you could just tell Lucid to not verify signatures, and then it does it for you. Because you can do that. You can basically configure to say just skip signature verification, and then you can basically work with the accounts as they are, right? Because that's the
Got it.
only reason why you wouldn't be able to. You can just sign on behalf and you don't have to prove it, basically.
Makes sense. All right, cool.
Again, only for development, right?
Yeah.
Don't do that for real.
I mean, it makes sense for
Okay,
devs.
now,
It makes it
hmm?
makes you get to like you get to building a lot quicker and like you skip a lot of the painful stuff that you have to do in development today.
Right. Yeah, I mean that's the whole idea, right? Like we're kind of taking we're giving you superpowers that make sense in development, but make it much faster and make it test run faster and maybe make it able to set up a test. I always use like the analogy of like when you do tests with databases, you set up a database maybe, right? Like you
Mhm.
put stuff in there, but you would never do that in production. But in a test, it helps. So this is kind of the same thing. Think of Solana like as a database, and we can actually modify every column however we want to, and then set up scenarios, right? And stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that.
Makes
So,
sense.
um, cool. Now I want to show you something cool. So here, so we just launched Lucid before, just by itself. You can just stop it. And I'm going to launch Lucid. There are other ways to do this. I'm just going to launch Lucid with the dot. And I'm right now in my Magic Worm directory, which we created at Magic Block to show the speed of our validator. So I can launch it with a dot. And what happens is Lucid will now launch, and we can see something already happened. It's because it found this workspace of my Magic Worm, and it looked in there and it found a kind of information about programs in that workspace. In this case, it found the Worm program. It found where it's deployable is, and it found the IDL path. And it already cloned that into the validator. And now it's actually watching that while it's running, right? So like forget about redeploying programs ever again while developing. It's like a waste of time. So now we have this in here, right? Now, what we can do, we can launch our beautiful
So
high graphics warm.
wait,
Uh-huh.
I before we get to this, quick question. There's a lot of stuff going on. You said watch, right? What does watch mean? Is that
Uh-huh.
hot reloading?
It just watches it. I call it hot swap. It watches your program, the program that's there. Like once you check it to be watched, it watches your file system for changes.
Okay, so if you're in your target deployed directory, if your .so changes, it'll just automatically redeploy
Maybe I should just show you. So the
it.
worm is kind of being stupid things, right? It's going up and down, right?
Uh-huh.
Because it like when it hits up, it's going down. Maybe we make it go right, yes. And then if it hits and if it hits the top, then maybe make it go left. Sorry, if it hits the bottom. And if it goes left, maybe you go up. Let's see. And let's do up again, just for fun. And then all I have to do is I do cargo build SPF. Now the build takes a while, but watch. Once the build is done, immediately
Oh
the
wow.
worm
Okay,
changes.
that's really cool.
You have to
Like the
be
deploy is like no time at all.
do you have to be in the workspace directory when you're running Lucid for this?
You launch Lucid from that workspace directly,
Okay.
but you don't have to be even in it because you can just have your workspaces here and you can just like have multiple and you can say, watch all these workspaces for me.
Oh
Right.
wow.
It's just basically it's easier to just start it from there because you're working there and then you know everything is already watched. Now, okay, so the worm is kind of stuck now though. So let's say, okay, if you hit left, I don't know exactly. I think we have to actually go. We hit right. Maybe we have to go down. Maybe that will work. So let's just and here's actually you can see it even faster. Let's free the worm. Let's try. Hopefully I got this right. Um, boom, we freed the worm immediately. Like there's no delay.
That's awesome.
Like there's no
Wow.
perceptible delay because it's like it's so fast because it literally doesn't do the normal step of deploying a program. It just literally like takes the state and boom, puts in the validator, tells the upgradable loader this is now the program, and then it's done. So it's way faster than redeploying.
So question
And
real
only
quick.
possible in Lucid because we can cheat.
Are you also cheating on other things with Lucid? Because I see that you hit a stack frame limitation on the compiler.
This one has nothing to do with Lucid. I'm actually not entirely sure why I got that. That
That's
might
with
be something that
that's
has to
with
do with the
worm.
program I'm using.
Yeah, that's with the worm. So
Uh,
like, are you removing stack frame limitations or because some
Um,
instruction within your program is running into a stack frame limitation.
Yes, it seems like it, but that has nothing to do with Lucid. So Lucid does like know nothing about this program, and it doesn't do anything special. There's no reference to Lucid in this program, right? It's just literally a normal Solana program,
Right.
and Lucid just like watches for the SO file. It doesn't even know about the Rust code,
I guess
right?
my question is, are you removing stack frame limitations within Lucid or you still have the same limitations? Because I know that, don't you have like, you can turn off sig verify or something as well in Lucid?
Okay, so you can turn off Sig Verify. Lucid, and my goal is to basically surface issues that you would have normally, right?
Uh-huh.
So I don't want you to run your program successful with Lucid and then it doesn't work on mainnet. So basically the idea is, and this is running the magic block validator under the hood, by the way, right? So to be that fast. And we'll make sure that we're trying to not fragment the ecosystem. We like the program should run exactly the same way that they run on mainnet, right? So if, for instance, Lucid had something where it would fill on mainnet and it doesn't, then I would like to fix that.
Okay.
Like, but the thing is, I got this earlier and before in other things, and it didn't cause any issues. But this might just be a warning that's maybe a false positive or
No,
something. But yeah, but the short answer is
it's definitely an error, but I don't know what like maybe you're not using the instruction in this demo. Some
maybe.
instruction will run into one of your instructions will run into the stack. This is actually a common
Okay.
issue today.
Okay. I mean, for now, I can just play the one fine. We can also put in our pad. So it all works. But yes, if it would to just work only in Lucid, then I would want to fix that, right? I want to surface basically these issues before you go to mainnet. That's the
Got it.
idea,
Cool.
right? Yeah, and that's pretty much it for the worm. So we can kill the one. But the idea is that basically, like, I'm just trying to do everything possible that I can think of. Like now we just shut off, but that I can think of to make you more productive,
Hmm.
like to make it faster, right? Like I mean, imagine even like I did this like while I was doing the warm. Actually, I was trying to figure something didn't work, and I just like put a message there and just saved Cowboy Pod, and now in my log I could see the message right immediately. Like I didn't have to wait for anything, like whatever, right? Um, let's look at one more thing, maybe, if you have some time. I actually did a bunch of work with the SDK. So let's just launch Lucid again. And let's look, because we also had some question from Brianna about the, what can you do? How do you modify accounts or whatever? So here we have documentation of Lucid that's now live. And it includes like documentation for the SDK. And so it has like short examples, but what it has like full examples, which are using CodePen under the hood. Let me just make it a little bigger. So it's actually using CodePen. And so you can look at the full example. And not only that, you can actually also run it right from here. And so it expects you to run a local Lucid. And now it's actually running this test or the specific example. And you can see that it's actually doing stuff. And you can actually see that it's really doing stuff. Like you can see it with Lucid. So right, and so the SDK docs are like interactive. All you have to do is run like a Lucid on your machine, and you can actually like play with them. And those are also obviously, since they are CodePen, you can also just go to the CodePen itself and you can edit them and play with them. You don't even have to like install a node or anything like that. You can just like do it right there. That's the other thing. And I did this basically for so you can mutate and clone accounts, save and restore snapshots, and you can also like it shows you how to label transactions. Like this one is kind of fun. You can do that real quick. You can basically run this one, and then it should actually, yeah, it just airdropped, and then it labeled it airdrop from
That's cool.
CodePen. So yeah, I'm trying really like, because I realized that there's so many features now in Lucid that people don't probably know about. One of is a config that I haven't documented yet, but I wanted to kind of make it really easy to get started and to play around and see the power that it has.
Funnily enough, I have yet to see people like this is the first time I've ever seen someone do CodePen with Solana. This is pretty
Yeah, this is
cool.
really cool.
I tried other solutions. I couldn't get anything else to work, especially with the imports. Like this one actually allows you to import things like this. So you kind of prefix it with this thing that you normally don't have. And then and it's just like TypeScript code, and you can just like, it just finds the libraries on NPM and just pull them in. And then there's of course a little bit cheating that makes this all work, but that's all hidden in the HTML that you never look at.
Question,
So
what cheating are you doing? Because I'd love to do this like
um,
a lot of things.
okay, there's actually a template that I created for this, but mainly like what I'm doing here, well, I'm playing because I didn't want to rewrite all my code. So there's this thing where I'm using a library that's for the terminal that makes things bold. I just wanted to be able to mostly copy and paste these examples that I had for Node, and then it makes it bold like this. So I basically created like a fake thing that just like has the same functions, but then it
Uh-huh.
makes it bold for the browser. What else did I do? Yeah, I did the logs, right? So when you actually console log and console error, it actually goes here, so you can actually see it instead of to the DevTools console, right? Yeah, and then some useful functions. This one makes sure that you actually have Lucid running, right? So it alerts you that well, you probably should start it. Yeah, stuff like that. Like nothing crazy. It's just providing convenience function and kind of shims for things that normally are available.
I could see us doing this on Cookbook.
That'd be really cool.
Provide a code pen for every single one. But this one always connects to Lucid. Like I guess what you could do is you could technically like run Lucid on like an instance, and it would be like a really cheap DevNet too, right? Because the hardware requirements
Mm-hmm.
for Lucid is like nothing, right?
But yeah, it's really, I mean, actually, like the validator that we now give our clients, Gabrielle managed to pack that in 47 megabyte Docker container. And it runs like with really low requirements. So we
Wait,
have that deployed. Like, yeah, and basically we could deploy DevNet, but I thought like would be kind of cool to deploy like a Lucid DevNet, and then you basically just use this way to connect to it, and then people could just basically run Lucid, right?
yeah, like a
So you basically
team.
just put a full URL here,
Like
like a
you
team, or it could be anyone, right? Like and then people can just play with it. And then you could make this connect. Yeah, you could basically have Solana Playground connect to that. You don't even need Lucid, right? Like the thing is, like if you don't do anything with Lucid, like this is all you need. Like you just make the connection, right? The Web3 to the validator that's running inside of Lucid, right?
Right.
You just
Yeah.
have to know which the URL is for it. Because Lucid kind of also figures like if you can run on any URL, Lucid basically will figure it out for you as well. When it kind of when it connects. But here it's like the custom, the normal 8899, so you can just connect to it normal.
That's really cool. What do you do? Is it just the front end that you can choose like where to connect to? Is that just like how? Because like you can do I guess to rephrase my question, you can today take a local test validator and shove it into, I don't know, so AWS container and put some ALB in front of it and everybody can hit it and all that. Um, the only thing that Lucid does special with like the connecting is that you could already do that, but it allows you to easily connect from the UI for all the looking at the validator itself, right?
That's pretty much true. I mean, like the backend here obviously has way more stuff. Like it wraps the test validator and it provides all the functionality that the UI needs, right? So if you, for instance, like want to mutate an account, the UI basically just sends a request to do that, or the SDK, right? You can, doesn't matter where you come from. And then the backend is actually where the power is, right? And you could even, I even got like today, for a second, I got Lucid working in the browser as well. So you could even host the whole UI in a browser. I'm just like a little bit away to actually have that fully working. But the point is that the backend provides a full API so you could actually also build a React app if you wanted to, and you just use Lucid SDK to basically connect, do the tasks and like get the information, all this stuff. So yeah, that's where the power is. And you can actually, as I mentioned, you can relaunch those. You can launch them on different ports. Lucid kind of tells you this here. If I launch another one at a different port, like if I try to say I want to get to it, actually tells you, hey, I'm already watching these ports. Leave me alone. Just launch your other Lucid on the other port, which also makes it possible to, like, in your test, you may say, I want to run those in parallel, right? And I'm going to just like have multiple configs. I'm going to run 5 Lucids and I'm going to run these tests in parallel. I don't have to like, and then all the tests are totally isolated because they run in different validators. And then say something goes wrong, you launch this Lucid UI, and then all the tabs pop open for each of one of the. I could show that if you want to. Basically, it opens a tab for each of the backends, and then they're totally isolated, and you can kind of diagnose things. But I didn't want to go overboard with showing too many overwhelming things. I want to kind of people get first. This is like how you normally would use it. You probably don't want to have multiple instances. Like you probably just want to have one for now and play with it.
So question, what's different between the magic block validator and the normal validator? Because like I, as Solana developer relations, right, I want to be able to, I want people to use this, but I'm very like, if it starts, I guess, diverging, to where maybe it won't work, it will work on Lucid, but in Magic Block, but not on, or sorry, Lucid on Bolt, but maybe not on like Solana mainnet. Like what's the actual difference and what's the plan difference?
The only difference, so basically, I mean, you have to think of like what we're building is we're trying to build something where people can write a program once, they can deploy it on DevNet or mainnet, and it works, right? But then if they want to speed it up, all they want to do is like, okay, run it in this validator. So it has to be like 100% compatible, right?
Okay.
We cannot be incompatible. Otherwise, that wouldn't work. We don't want to fragment the ecosystem. We don't want to say, oh, this program only runs in our validator or right, whatever. No, that's not what we want. The main difference is that there's no consensus reached at the time of the transaction being processed. The consensus is reached whenever the state change is committed back to mainnet. So potentially you could, so basically you're running like a bunch of transactions really fast, and you saw how fast they're running. And then basically when you're trying to say, I want to commit the account state that changed, you basically have to make a proposal to say, I want to commit that back. And then there will be a committee that makes sure that the account state that you arrived at is actually valid. And then it basically verifies the consensus reached at that point. And since we don't have to reach consensus before kind of accepting a transaction, that's what makes it faster, right? So we don't have to gossip. There's no gossip. It's just like it's at this point, it's a single node running it, and then there will be the verifier nodes that will basically kind of review what that node did. And the other thing is, like, for that reason, we don't have commitment levels. Like once a transaction ran, it's done from our point of view. And then also we don't have votes. So that's why Lucid is actually much leaner, because if you even start the test validator, it already uses like
It's voting.
30% or something on my CPU. That's because of all the votes. You're not even doing anything yet. It's just all the voting, but we don't have voting
So
because there's no
question,
voting while the transactions are processed.
what's returned in the if you do a RPC call with like confirmed transaction or something, what's returned as the commitment level then from Lucid?
So I mean, like as I said, there is no commitment level
Right.
in Lucid.
I'm trying to make
So if
sure
you
that
ask for
the
any
code
account,
equals.
yeah. So now I was thinking about that, because so if you basically say, give me this account at the process level, or at the confirmed level, or at the finalized level, it's the
They're
same.
all the
You always
same.
get the
Okay.
same, and
So that makes sense. I was just making sure that like if you state one or you're asking for one, it's always going to be the same because technically it's all finalized on local.
Correct. Like we basically don't like the way Solana does it. They have multiple banks at the same time, right? And so if you
Mhm.
ask for an account at a certain commitment level, it figures out what bank that account state is currently in, and it uses a different source of truth, so to speak, for giving you back that data, right? Like it might be outdated or something like right, or it might be so. For instance, like processed. If you think that of the newest one, you might, if you ask for finalized, you kind of get an older state that hasn't been final because the new one hasn't been finalized yet. So in that case, I that's the only reason why I would not recommend using Lucid. If you want to kind of make sure that certain code that has to do with commitment levels works correctly, then Lucid is not the right tool, right? Because it doesn't do that. Like your tests might work or not work for the wrong reasons, right? Then you should launch for those tests or whatever. You should use a normal Solana test validator, right? But for everything else, Lucid is like, and the magic block value is 100% compatible with Solana,
Got it.
right?
There's
And
a
if we are not, like for instance, like you pointed out the stack frame thing here, if we are not, then we'll fix that. Like we need to be 100% compatible.
got it. There's a question in the chat. Are all sysvars handled properly in Lucid 2? Things like slot history and slot hashes.
Yes, so those sysvars do exist the same way. And then we have the clock, we have the whatever else is there, the rent sysvar, they're all there. That's because I mean, if you're running a program, right, you cannot just like crash because you're trying to get to sysvar that's normally available, right? So Lucid has those same sysvars.
Okay, cool. Bree, did you have any other questions?
Um, no, not right now. I think it's really cool.
I think it's really cool too. There's a lot of things in here that I feel like would make developers' lives so much easier. We just need to get people using it and trying it out.
Yeah, definitely. I
Yep.
definitely want to like play around with it a little bit, like locally, and see. I'll probably have some more questions after that. So,
Yeah, that would be great.
Awesome. Any
I mean, like I try to make the installation as fast and easy as possible. So literally just go to hit the button, click that thing, run it, and it just gets you up to speed.
mhm.
question from chat? Where do you actually go to get all this? What's your
Where do
website?
I go to?
What's the website for
Oh,
installing?
Lucid.app. Lucid.app. Do we have a chat? No, we don't have a chat here, but it's literally Lucid, like with a Z, like Luz, the
Uh-huh.
light, because it's Solana.
Oh, is that why?
Lucid.app.
Okay. Is that
Yes.
why it's named that?
So well, I wanted a nice word that communicates like speed, like rapid, lucid, right? And lucid dreaming, power. You have power, right? And then, but then it's Solana, and luz is like light in Spanish, and sol is the sun in Spanish. So then put that together, then I kind of misspelled it on purpose, where it's like lucid
Nice.
with a Z.
I
Go
like
for it
that.
then.
So Luzid dot app. That's the website.
Awesome.
Lucid.app.
So yeah, anybody who's watching, please try that out. It's an awesome application. I'm definitely going to try it out. And thank you, Thorsten, for joining us and giving an overview on Lucid as well as all the new changes on it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I just want to get as many people using it. And yeah, whatever can improve just file issues. The SDK repo is currently available to file issues. Björn already discovered that and filed some. So just go ahead and file anything that you want, any feature requests, open to anything.
Very cool. Thank you for joining
Awesome.
us. And I think that's all we have today. So we will see you